Hello everyone, Mr. Martin here, and welcome to the presentation on using images ethically, how to avoid copyright infringement. Our learning objective is, by the end of this presentation, students will be able to find, use, and provide proper attribution for images in their coursework. So what is copyright? Basically, it's just the right to distribute and make copies of some piece of intellectual property. This includes images, and what is important to remember is that even though it's very easy to copy and paste an image, all images on the internet are under copyright. This means that you need permission from the copyright holder to use them. The only exception are images that are in the public domain, okay? However, there is a special type of copyright. It's called Creative Commons. And as long as you abide by the terms of the Creative Commons license, you have permission to use these images. All Creative Commons licenses are a little bit different, but most of them are going to let you use it as long as you give attribution to the author, and usually they don't let you make money off of it. Database images are not Creative Commons images, but in these databases that the district provides, the images are typically allowed to be used if you are using it for private, non-commercial use. And schoolwork falls under this. Okay, so for your projects, you can use these images as long as you aren't making the projects public and you are trying to make money off of them. Okay? I always double check the license terms just in case. Now, regardless of the license, even for public domain, you have to cite your images properly in your projects. And this is the difference between copyright infringement and academic honesty. Just because, let's say, for example, the Mona Lisa, that is in the public domain. Nobody owns the copyright on the Mona Lisa. However, you cannot use the Mona Lisa in your project and try and pass it off as your own. First of all, nobody's going to believe you. And second of all, that is plagiarism and academic dishonesty. So let's look at a few ways to get some images for your projects that you will be able to use. And let's look at our old pal, George Washington. So the first way I'm going to show you is from a database, okay? And so I have looked up George Washington. Like always, I'm going to scroll down and look at all of the different content Gale offers, and I find images right here. Okay, so I'm going to click images, and what I'm able to do now is scroll through and see what Gale has to offer as far as images of George Washington. And I can see that not all of them are great, but we do start off with some good ones. I really like this picture. He's looking very dapper. So I want to use this in my project. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click Send To. I'm going to click my Google Drive. And now, if I go to my Google Drive, and I go to my biography folder, I can see right here, we have the image, and I have my citation that I can put in my Works Cited page. Okay? Very useful. So this, I can just copy and paste because I am allowed to by the license. This image may be used for personal, non-commercial purposes only. That is what my school project is, so I can copy and paste it into my project. Okay? Let's look at another way. Now, I don't necessarily recommend this way for a lot of your images. But this is another way to find Creative Commons images. So when I do a Google search and I click on my Images tab, what I can do to find Creative Commons images is to click on Tools. I go to Usage Rights, and I click on Creative Commons Licenses. Okay? Now, this requires a little bit more digging on your part, okay? Because I don't necessarily know the license terms for all of these images. So let's click on this one, for example. I'm going to open the link in a new tab, and I need to know how I'm allowed to use this image. So I click on the link. I'm going to visit the site. And over here, I can see the license terms. Non-commercial license requires attribution. So I must add a link to WannaPick and credit the author in exchange for using the graphics. Okay, so I can use this. I just have to add a link and give the author credit. Now, where that author is a little bit more difficult to say. And it looks like what I'll have to do is provide a link to wannapick.com or including designed by WannaPick whenever I use the graphic. Okay, so that's what I mean. This is why I would use the database, right? I don't have to do extra research into exactly how I'm able to use those pictures. It's very clear. For images on a Google search, you do have to do that work. That doesn't mean you can't use them, but it does mean that you're going to have to be more careful with how you use them, and you still need to create a citation. Remember, this is just about copyright infringement. When we're talking about citations, we're talking about academic honesty. You will still have to create your own citation. Whereas for this, the citation is created for me. I can copy and paste it. For the other, you will have to write out an attribution that looks like this. Okay? It's a lot more work to use the Google images than it is to use your database images. Anyway, this is how you do it. So enjoy and happy image hunting.